Thank you for tuning in to Split Pea Scoop. My name is Rachel Marisha Morrison. Before we start, I would love to share with you what my credentials are to assure you that you're in good hands and good ears at Split Pea Scoop. My Master of Science degree is in nutrition. My Bachelor of Science degree is in adult health and physical education. I'm an American College of Sports Medicine certified group exercise instructor, as well as a certified Zumba instructor. I am also certified by the American Red Cross in first aid, CPR, AED, and bloodborne pathogen training. I also wrote 2 books. My most recent published book is entitled Through the Spirit Health Journal, A Loving, Joyful, and Peaceful Spiritual Nutrition Experience. And my first book is entitled God plus Music equals Joy. Both of my books are available on Amazon with an ebook and paperback form. It's time to get started. Episode 16 is called See in Red, Wrath and Lycopene. We are going to explore how anger can evolve into wrath, but in a positive way, in order to enhance the quality of life by countering anger using all 9 fruits of the Spirit we will explore today. So within my interactive health journal entitled Through the Spirit Health Journal, I mentioned the word anger 21 times, and I also mentioned wrath 7 times. The first time that I used the word anger is when I described by quoting the 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 8 within the word. These sets of verses say the following, quote, "Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always trusts, always hopes, and perseveres. Love never fails." The specific devotional within my interactive Through the Spirit Health Journal, in which I quote this verse, is within days 4 through 6. And the title of this set of devotions is called What Love Is. So when you have family, friends, loved ones, etc., even though we may feel temporarily angry in that moment with anyone, it does not evolve into wrath because love is more important. Love is everything. Love is the first fruit of the Spirit on purpose. And it just manifests and counters any anger that can evolve into wrath. So the very first way to exude the countering of anger so it doesn't turn to wrath is practice love. And love is an action verb, and that is why we must exude love all the time. And feel free to listen to my episode 6, Seasons of Self-Love. So the second fruit of the Spirit is joy, of course. So the Bible verse that I quote before I explore another way I like to counter my anger is through a joyful breakfast. So this is the Bible verse that reinforces this principle. Psalm 35 specifically. Chapter 30, verse 5 says, quote, "For his anger endureth but a moment, in his favor is life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." So one of my favorite ways to exude joy and to counter any anger that can evolve into wrath is to cook a beautiful, joyful morning meal. And shout out to Adelphi University. Love you guys. Panthers all the way. So I made a joyful morning meal cooking video for my interfaith council within Adelphi University, and this was so much fun to cook in front of everyone on live camera and just have a good time with it and exude my nutrition passion and degree and everything I have going on. And in order to counter any anger or turning into wrath, practice joy, of course. My favorite way to do that is to wake up with a wonderful spirit of joy and just cook and have a good time. specifically breakfast. When you start the day with a wonderful breakfast, it makes the day wonderful and joyful, and therefore absence of anger. Furthermore, within my God plus music equals joy first book, the very first verse I talk about in this book is associated with counting your blessings. Believe it or not, the verse that was used for this is James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. Notice the consecutive 1, 2, 3. So I thought that was so cool, and God is wonderful, and everyone's wonderful, and I'm happy about that. So James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3 says the following quote, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall in various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience." So I'm going to read the first part of my God plus music equals joy book. Feel free to pick it up on Amazon in ebook and paperback form. So I'm going to read the first page associated with James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. So this is what I wrote, the following. Try listening to Mad by Solange and Lil Wayne as a soothing tune to channel the energy of anger. Anger over past trauma, present injustices, and future uncertainties are just. However, it is not worth your precious spirit fruit of joy to be consumed by the unfairness of life. The past cannot be changed. The future is not a promise. The present moment must be driven by a motivation to retain joy. Joy is not all bubblegums and rainbows. Joy and anger cannot coexist, as anger rots the fruit of joy. Count your blessings. James 1, verses 2 and 3. Exactly. 1, 2, 3. So count your blessings. Do not take your series of negative life events to heart. No matter how life seems unfortunate, always count your blessings. There is a large design and plan behind every positive, negative, and indifferent series of events within your lifespan development. Cherish the positive. Learn from the negative. Take indifferent experiences into positive coping skill utilization. Spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical health are a top priority. So it's very important to count your blessings and practice gratitude in order to counter any anger that can manifest into wrath. And if you need something more tangible to drive this point home, try making this is what I like to do. I made a collage on my computer with people, places, and things and concepts that make me happy and joyful using the letters A through Z. So, for example, Z was for Zumba, and A are for my niece and nephew, Asher and Asa. Shout out to you both. And T was for my siblings, Tarek and Tasha, and as well as other elements. So for M was music. So full circle back to this book that I wrote, God plus music equals joy. I use certain songs that are various genres in order to reinforce biblical points home, and I highly encourage you to read it. Not only because I wrote it, but just because it's a wonderful, amazing book. And I think that everyone listening would really enjoy it and have a good time with it, with any kind of music that you're into. So the next fruit of the Spirit that is addressed and that is linear to countering anger is peace. Give Peace a Chance is a wonderful song by John Lennon, and I love it. I love listening to it. And there are quotes within my book that reinforce how peace can also counter anger as well. So this is a quote I use within my devotional book for the Spirit Health Journal, specifically days 61 through 63. Peace is fearless. So my quote is the following. Feelings of sadness, grief, loneliness, anxiety, betrayal, heartbreak, envy, insecurity, inadequacy, unloved, fear, and anger are some emotions that can influence food choices. And then the second quote is from the Bible that was reinforced with this devotional that I wrote, specifically John chapter 14, verse 37, which says, Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. Fear is an emotion that can be the foundation of anger. So when we conquer our fears, we're more likely to feel less angry. And furthermore, it's very important to counter fear, counter anger, counter any connotative emotion. Even though every emotion has a purpose, we must counter it so that it doesn't manifest into anything else in a connotative direction. So another way I like to exude peace, as well as the next fruit of the Spirit we're going to explore, is patience. My two favorite ways to exude peace and patience, in addition to cooking and making collages that are conducive to elevating my love, joy, peace, and patience, and every other fruit of the Spirit in order to counter anger and wrath, is martial arts and science. And to combine them both together, I like to call myself a martial scientist as well as a martial artist, but I love science so much and I love martial arts so much. So to combine them, I call myself a peaceful and patient martial scientist. So in order to reinforce this point, I'm going to read some quotes from my book, Fruit of the Spirit Health Journal, specifically days 88 to 90. The title of this devotional within my book is Peace and Homeostasis. So peace is a wonderful fruit of the Spirit that we exude. And then homeostasis is the scientific term for human body balance. And the quote that reinforces this within this devotional is, within my book, emotional peace and homeostasis are embodied through the release of resentment, insecurity, bitterness, and anger. The biblical verse that was used prior to me writing this devotional within my book is John 16:33, which says, quote, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And then as previously stated, martial arts, for me personally, I'm going to read my quote corresponding to this in another devotional within my book, corresponding to patience. This is my quote. Martial arts is a wonderful method for me to express my emotions through physical expression, followed by a Tai Chi-esque cool down to calm me down. So physical activity is a wonderful way, specifically martial arts for me, to calm down and to feel peaceful, more patient with myself and others, and just have a wonderful time and counter any anger that can manifest into wrath. And the specific verse I used to reinforce this point within my devotional was Titus chapter 2, verse 2, which says, teach the older men to be temperate, worthy of respect, self-controlled, and sound in faith, in love, and endurance. So the title of this devotional in my patience section was called Patience is Seasoned, specifically days 106 to 108. So the next fruit of the Spirit that follows patience is kindness. So this is another way to express the countering of anger that can manifest into wrath. The specific kindness verse that is used to reinforce my devotional specifically within days 124 through 126 is the practice of forgiving others and yourself. So the title of this devotional was Kindness is Forgiven. And Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32 was used to support this reinforcement of my devotional, which says, quote, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. I'm now going to read the next time I use the word anger within my book, within this specific section of this book, corresponding to kindness. So this is my 3 quotes, and I'll read them right now. I said, quote, it is impossible to genuinely be kind to others and yourself if there is internal malice, bitterness, or anger brewing against your others and yourself. Lifestyle is negatively impacted if true forgiveness is not embraced. There are no mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional health benefits associated with retaining focus on negative elements of the past. So other than the wisdom that obtained from negative experiences in life, it's not worth holding on to without forgiving others and without forgiving yourself. So the next fruit of the Spirit mentioned is goodness. And the specific devotional within my book that I talk about goodness and anger combined is goodness is a perception. That's the title of the devotional corresponding to goodness in days 151 to 153 of my book, Through the Spirit Health Journal. And the biblical verse that talks about this is the following. This is what the Lord says. As when juice is still found in a cluster of grapes and people say, don't destroy it, there is still a blessing in it. So I will do in behalf of my servants, I will not destroy them all. So goodness is a perception. And the reason I say this is corresponding to the devotional, and I'll read the following quote from my book. Mental, spiritual, and emotional aspects have goodness as well, even when it seems like it does not. There are purposes behind all emotions, including negative ones such as anger, sadness, fear, anxiety, and more. All emotions and thoughts have energy levels that can be combated through coping skills such as fitness and nutrition. I like to pep up or wind down my workouts when I feel such emotions or think negative thoughts. For example, I like to do kickboxing workouts at home whenever I feel emotional to unleash and release these emotions and thoughts. I like to also dance to my favorite retro songs from the 1990s to overcome feelings and thoughts associated with sadness and anxiety. The next fruit of the Spirit is faithfulness. And the element in which I use the word anger in connection to faithfulness is the faithfulness never compares. So as mentioned in my previous envy episode, highly encourage you to listen to that as well. Anger was also mentioned concurrently. So specifically, I wrote within my days 199 to 201 within my Fruit of the Spirit Health Journal interactive devotional book. It was the following quotes are which I used and wrote down. The story of Abel and Cain is a biblical application to these principles. Cain's wrath and envy of brother Abel's sacrifice to God cost him his soul and brotherhood. Cain killed his brother due to his wrath and envy. Although this is an extreme example, this applies to our lifestyle journeys and destinies overall. The next fruit of the Spirit is gentleness. And to reinforce the dissipation of wrath evolving from foundational anger, the most important thing to do when it comes to gentleness is to communicate with gentleness. So the verse that I used to support this point I made in my book was Proverbs 15:1. Proverbs chapter 15 verse 1 says, quote, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And this is the following that I wrote in correspondence within my devotional book. One revelation I had is associated with the difference between wrath and anger. Anger is an emotion, whereas wrath is one of the 7 deadly sins. Anger is rebuked through asking God as our daily bread. Furthermore, countering anger elevates other fruits of the Spirit and other secondary fruits such as wisdom, grace, mercy, righteousness, and more. There are no dire consequences when I do not give in to my anger through words or actions. Quite the contrary, to be frank. People are proud of me through God for my true laid-back, sweet, and people person personality to shine through. Through listening and talking to someone who feels angry, gentle communication prevents any sinful wrath from developing. Hence, gentle answers overshadow wrathful words. The final fruit of the Spirit is self-control. In connection to anger turned wrath, the devotional that I correspond to within my book was within days 253 to 255, the city of self-control. And the Bible verse that I used and reinforced was Proverbs 25 through 28, which says, like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. And this was the following quotations from my devotional through the Spirit Health Journal book is the following quotes. An emotion that is usually misunderstood and perceived as absence of self-control is anger. A connection that anger has to our nutrition and health journeys is the term hangry. Hunger may manifest itself in our emotions, thoughts, and spiritual divinities. Anger is usually a secondary emotion. It was personally released from me when I explored other areas of my emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical health. Anger is also a secondary emotion and can be channeled with the mind, body, heart, and soul when mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual areas are delved into. So I will leave the podcast on a positive, amazing note furthermore by reinforcing one of my favorite things to do is laughing and nostalgic cartoons. The specific cartoon I'm going to refer to is one of my favorites of all time, Doug. And in one episode, his football coach told him to squeeze tomatoes before he played football in order to release his anger in a positive, funny way. And the reason I bring this up is because it's my favorite way to counter anger, number one. And also, as I stated before in the title of my episode, Lycopene gives tomatoes and other red fruits and vegetables its color. So therefore, I'm connecting everything together through a simple joke by saying squeeze tomatoes or to make sauce rather than feeling saucy. And I'll leave my podcast on that note and tune in next week, everyone. Thank you for listening and stay peaceful.